Greetings, family. This is Brother Ron. You are listening to and watching We All Be News, News Free Dixie for the 21st century. Can you dig it?
Judge, I got to ask you about one of my favorite topics to talk to you about. OJ, man, we got to talk about the juice. Fred Goldman, the father of Ronald Goldman, so-called victim of OJ Simpson, even though he was found now guilty, alleges that OJ owes him $96 million. That's based on the interest from the civil court ruling that they awarded them with $33.4 million or something like that. But OJ, they can't touch his pension where he was getting like $25,000 a month from the NFL.
You know what? What was going on? What was going on is allegedly Goldman, the deceased, used to hang around Nicole because she was known for her good drugs.
Okay.
She allegedly owed every big drug dealer in West Hollywood and Westwood and Bel Air a whole lot of money. And she was known for being down on the boys club on Santa Monica Boulevard. That's where the gay folk hang out, and giving away drugs. And she was what they call, the term they use is fag hag.
Okay.
So she hung around with them, and Goldman and a whole bunch used to hang around her to get the drugs. So he happened to be in the wrong place, wrong time. Now, my late brother, Clifford Stewart of Los Angeles, the martial artist,
Yes, sir.
was called by the prosecutor's office as an expert on knife killing. He looked at the evidence. He said, first off, there are two sets of footprints in this dried blood. OJ wears a size 12. And what you have here is commensurate with somebody wearing a size 9.5 and somebody wearing a size 10. That's not OJ.
Right.
The guy that made the gloves, I skied with him up in Aspen. He did a hand tracing of everybody. OJ had a 2XL hand in that size of glove. Fuhrman had a size large, which is what that glove was. It was two sizes too small for OJ. See, what they don't want to talk about is 4 of the chief detectives in the OJ case went to the penitentiary for planting evidence and fixing other cases, and under what they call the
L.A. Rampart scandal, one of the biggest police corruption scandals. Hello, Judge. The Rampart scandal, one of the biggest corrupt cop cases in the history of American policing.
4 of the cops that were involved in the OJ case went to the penitentiary for their part in the Rampart scandal. In other words, they planted evidence. Now, Nancy Grace was the reporter, and she's a sleaze. She does not know what truth, veracity, accuracy, or whatever in the hell verb you want to pick is when it comes to being truthful. And she kept saying the evidence was devastating. So I taped every scrap of it. I was a bachelor, and every evening I would listen to this nonsense and then go back in my chambers when I had some motions to look at. And in the meanwhile, look at this stuff, everything. And I said, it doesn't get any better than that for the defense. Yeah. See, she lied about it, and she did not let anybody know what was done with some very crucial evidence. See, LAPD had a reputation for stealing stuff from rich folks' homes. As a matter of fact, OJ got in trouble later in Vegas when he wanted an autographed picture that J. Edgar Hoover gave him and several Super Bowl rings with his names engraved inside them that were stolen from his home when LAPD did the investigation. So they took a security video of the entire house so you can look at it and say, well, the guy says a painting was defaced or missing. Here's the painting. Where is it now? So what they showed was at about quarter after the hour, the security team is videoing the scene. Right. They are shooting down at the foot of the bed where the bloody socks were supposed to be found. There was not a bloody sock in evidence. About 10, 15 minutes later, you hear them say, "Excuse me, who are you?" So you hear somebody say something like Detective Fur. So one of them says, "Detective Fur, you have to leave right now." "Okay, Detective Fuhrman, you have to leave or we'll escort you out." "Sir, we don't care. You have to wait." Well, a few minutes later, they panned the camera up. You can see through 2 bedrooms, and what do you see? Fuhrman standing at the foot of that bed. And they said, "Detective Fuhrman, didn't we tell you you had to get out?" And you can hear him mumbling some stuff. He said, "Oh, no, you have to leave right now. Somebody escort him out of there." So 25 minutes later, after you've seen the atomic clock running in the top of this video showing that at basically 15 after the hour, there were no bloody socks at the foot of this bed. You see him standing at the foot of the bed about 25 minutes after the hour. And then when crime scene comes in almost an hour later, what do you see? Right there, a pair of bloody socks at the foot of the bed, when 45 minutes before you saw no bloody socks, but you saw Fuhrman fiddling around at the bed on camera.
Mm.
So you also had evidence from eyewitnesses that one of the crime scene people was videoed bringing OJ's serological sample back to the scene of the crime. He was cross-examined vigorously. "Why did you bring it back?" "I forgot I had it." "Why did you pull it out of the bag? We can see it on the video." "And what are you doing? It looks like you're upending it."
Mm-hmm.
And they put on proof that the amount of blood supposedly belonging to OJ was consistent with the missing sample that they took from him that was supposed to have gone to the defense. Now, the other thing is Nancy Grace made this big deal out of the DNA evidence that were just totally condemning of OJ. What the good doctor said, who trained the state's 2 witnesses that they called and they didn't interview very well, he said, "I know the 2 people you called. I trained them. They were not good students." And no, when you look at this, this is consistent with a type of DNA that OJ has, and it is consistent with someone who came from the Northeast Mediterranean or from the island of Sicily.
Mm.
Now, as far as it limiting itself to OJ, there are approximately, get this, 95,000 people in the LA County area that could have donated this sample, and OJ wasn't one of them.
Wow.
So they tried to cover that up, and he even says, "General, you introduced a proof. This is your witness. You didn't examine your witnesses to find out what they would say." So, I mean, it wasn't anything for OJ. And the other point is I got to look at all of the evidence, courtesy of somebody I recruited to law school, who was the administrative judge for LA County. Oh, she's fine too, Lord gracious. Still is. Anyway, she let me see the pictures. OJ and Nicole, not OJ, Nicole and Rod had their throats slit from ear to ear.
Right.
And somebody reached in with a pair of pliers. You could see the plier marks on the tongue and pulled the tongue out of the slit throat. That's a Colombian necktie. The other thing is each of them was killed with the same stroke, not stab, 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 but somebody who was left-handed, according to my friend and brother, stabbed them, a left-handed person, from the right side of the chest, going to the left and down, which severed the aorta and destroyed the 2 upper chambers of the heart. They were dead, 1 stab wound. And then when they stopped bleeding so profusely, the throat got slit and the Colombian tie came out. Now, Nancy Grace never said this, but they called a witness in the federal witness protection program, and his face was shaded and his voice was disguised, and he said, "Myself and then they blurred it out, we dated Nicole's 2 older sisters." So everybody thought Nicole was a junkie and didn't anybody care about her. They didn't know that it was OJ's ex-wife, so they killed her as a message to us to keep our mouth shut. Now, guess where they came from? Sicily.
They're Italian mob guys. Okay.
Yeah. So remember, the blood sample where somebody nicked themselves came from somebody from either the northeast Mediterranean or from the island of Sicily.
Max, this Joe, you think that he had something to do with that directly? The
Who?
boyfriend that was testifying?
Well, no, he was remote. He was in a federal witness protection program. So they had his face blacked out and a sound synthesizer so you couldn't recognize his voice. Now, the thing that got me is all this BS about ironclad case. Fuhrman himself, according to independent witnesses, had been over to Nicole's house 10 to 12 times trying to date her. And OJ had caught her several times screwing somebody on the couch. And his reaction was not going into a rage. It was, look, the kids live here. Can't you find some fool that ain't broke so you can go to his house or to a motel room? And if you can't afford one, ask me. Just don't spend the money on drugs and go there.
Right.
See, the other point is, didn't make any sense. He just left a recital for his two daughters. So if he was going to kill Nicole, he would have been in a situation where he would have had to say, baby girl, go upstairs and tell your little sister that when she hears mama screaming, it's just daddy killing her. Doesn't make any sense. And he caught her multiple times, and he even had his ex-wife came on and said he never lifted a hand to me.
And Marguerite, or a black woman. But Judge, even you look at that, it's the timeline. How was he able to clean up so well and make it that red-eye flight to Chicago without any bruises? Really?
Well,
I mean, it's a lot of blood.
My friend said,
photograph.
well, here's what happened. My friend said, since he had done it professionally for unmentioned agencies, he said, doing that, you wouldn't have gotten on any airplane because it would be the middle of the day before you got the blood off. And what you would usually do was strip down, and strip down to your underwear so you didn't get your street clothes bloody and you could throw your drawers and T-shirt away.
Even his Bronco, right? It was a lot of blood in the Bronco. It was not a lot of blood in the Bronco.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Not one drop. They called that guy whose daddy started the impound lot and who ran it. He testified that they were curious and they went through the Bronco with a fine-tooth comb and a magnifying glass, and there was not one drop of blood in it. So they parked it in the specially restricted portion of their lot, which was not much bigger than the outline of the truck. The fence was 9 feet high with concertina wire at the top. There were 4 padlocks on it that they didn't have the keys to, only LAPD did. They went over that with a fine-tooth comb when they towed the vehicle in. There wasn't a drop of blood in it. 11 days later, when they were required to tow it to the crime lab, they said they saw blood all in it. And guess what? Wow. The experts testified the amount of blood that was in the Bronco was consistent with the missing sample that was supposed to have been given over to OJ's defense team for his own defense. Wow. So it's like all this stuff from some rookies who weren't very good at what they did. And Marcia Clark and Joe Darden were damn near incompetent. And if I recall, I used to lecture to a law class, and it was on how to try cases, practical legalisms. And I would always show tapes of that as how not to do it. So I talked to some judges who were in there and said it was the most incompetent thing they'd ever seen. And they were all of the agreement was there was plenty of probable cause for an indictment, except it wasn't OJ, it was Fuhrman.
Now, it's interesting, Judge, that restaurant where Nicole had her last meal in Brentwood, they razed it, they destroyed it. But from my understanding, it was an organized crime front for drug pushing and dealing. A lot of them waiters were involved in the drug trade. Because, Ronald Goldman's friend got killed at Attn just right before the verdict. He had
I lived at a place called Empire West, which was in West Hollywood. It was a 14-story condo building. I had a 4,500 square foot condo in that place, luxury.
Yeah.
And they had more drug dealing going up in there, including some people worked on my show. And I always tip the hired help $500, $1,000 at a shot. So they tell me anything I want. They take pictures, Polaroid pictures and pictures on their cell phone. Judge, take a look at this.
Wow.
I said, that dude works with me. Yeah, look who he's with. He's with so-and-so. That's one of the major drug dealers out here. Oh, ain't that? Oh. I can put that to use. So this person happened to be Nicole's primary supplier, owed a lot of money to him, allegedly. And there were some old retired white gangsters that lived off in there, and they'd break it down. Yeah. And it's an interesting thing situationally here. You got to look at what's really going on. It's like all this criminality, and you know, the proof of them selling drugs where they live. You think, what is this? It's no damn wonder such atrocities happen. OJ, good guy, we want a lot of money off of him. What they trying to put this shit on him? They know he didn't do it. They trying to cover their own ass.
Wow.
So what happened with what he wound up doing time on was he was in Vegas. Certain people, a mythical organization, were grateful that he made so much money. They didn't know he was still in love with Nicole. So they agreed to provide security services. So they went to this flea market. And what's there but this 11 by 14 autograph picture to him from J. Edgar Hoover. 4 Super Bowl rings, a certificate of this, some other stuff, all-star stuff as an NFL pro and in college. All this memorabilia he had already reported as stolen, and there it is. So he and 4 other guys go back, and a 5th person joins them. And the 4 guys from the organization think this 5th guy is with OJ. OJ thinks this 5th guy is with the organization, and nobody knows it. He tipped everything off, and when they vamped, he was the one with the gun and tried to put it on everybody like they didn't even know what his name was.
Right.
So, I mean, it's one of those things you have to watch out for. So, witness after witness testified, oh, yeah, OJ caught her all the time. He just said, will you stop screwing where the children can catch you? If you need money to get a motel room because these fools are too broke, just ask me. Don't spend it on drugs.
Yeah, I heard that 911 call, one of them anyway, where he was trying to be reasonable with Nicole. Like, why you bringing strangers around my children in our home? You know, like you said, get a hotel, I'll pay for it. Come in, allegedly Marcus Allen was screwing Nicole and was riding the OJ car. He didn't kill Marcus Allen. Fellow USC alum and running back great. So I don't think OJ's a killer. I mean, I could be wrong, but OJ, he spent almost 8 years in prison. He's still the same person.
Sprung on that woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew him. I met him back
you
when he
played
was an
football against him,
undergrad. I was at UCLA. Yeah.
Right.
Well, for 1 year, but anyway, 1 game. But that was one hard running brother. I ain't gonna lie to you.
One of the greatest of all time.
Like, I was a defensive safety, and trying to tackle him was like literally trying to take down a damn bull with a built-in gyroscope. You know, God damn, I weigh 205 and can run a 9,600. I say, God damn, I don't want to deal with this big suck anymore.
Oh yeah, OJ was bad, man.
Yeah, I want to be a running back too. I don't need to be trying to do this. I'm gonna break myself up. You know, We used to play cards together out at this place on Santa Monica Beach. A guy who was a math professor wound up marrying a good friend of mine I'd known all through undergrad. She was a law student. And we'd go out there. OJ would come out there. Other folk would come out there. And we'd hang out for 3 and 4 days, do our homework there. And hell, if you walked out the front door, there was a sidewalk, and if you stepped over the sidewalk, there was Santa Monica Beach sand. So we used to hang out there. Wow. And OJ was a nice guy. He wasn't violent. Football players tend to get that out of their systems. They don't run around, you know, with this built-up aggression, because what they do is every time they're on the field, they hit somebody and they get it out of them. They tend to be peaceful people when they're not on the field.
Yeah, OJ, he don't strike, because I met guys who played football with OJ. I mean, one guy, Curtis McClinton, he scored the first touchdown for the A.L.L. in the Super Bowl, in the first Super Bowl. He's a Kansas City Chief great. And he told me we didn't really bother OJ. OJ was cool. I mean, he wasn't active. Like he was working with Jim Brown and stuff, but the economic stuff, Curtis McClinton was. You know, he was in that photo with Muhammad Ali and Jim Brown and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Bill Russell all around Muhammad Ali. He was standing behind Ali, Curtis McClinton. He's a good guy. But he said OJ was all right with them, even though he wasn't into like the movement stuff. They respected OJ. He was respectable. Like he didn't give
He
guys
would do
any problem.
quiet stuff for the movement.
Okay.
He would do quiet stuff for the movement. You could always count on him to be there one way or the other, but he didn't make it obvious. But you could always count on him.
But he didn't stand in the way either, right? He didn't stand in the way of stuff.
He was always a willing participant.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'll say that.
Okay.
The brother was just trying to, he came from another part of the country. That thing in California was buck wild. I mean.
Judge Joe Brown's all-new barbecue sauce and seasoning. Justice in the form of flavor.
Law firms will take this as a retainer.
What? It must be a law firm where they hungry as hell. Now you gonna help me with this parole I'm dealing with?